Oh, hello. I'm Sketch.
And I'm Shades.
And this is Geeking Out with Shades and Sketch. Welcome back, longtime listeners. Welcome back, Shades.
Welcome back, Sketch.
Welcome
to the Rock.
Oh, every time you join us, ladies and gentlemen, you join us in a different location in the Geeking Out multiverse. And yeah, this time.
Sketch, GOCO, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
We're back.
We're back.
GOCO hastily set up.
You're probably thinking to yourself, well, you had quite a pause in episodes. You must have been setting up the GOCO the whole time.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Oh, no, long time
10
listeners.
minutes. Just plugged in these mics.
Just got everything up and running. We had to move locations a couple times. It got a little hairy.
And
Sketch, where is GOCO set up?
GOCO this time set up in, well, as you said,
The Rock.
The Rock. I believe the Southern
Lighthouse?
Is that what it's called? The Southern Lighthouse of The Rock, also known as Alcatraz Island, also known as Dwayne Johnson.
Yes.
This was his first role in a major motion picture.
Sketch, I don't think that's accurate.
That wasn't him?
I don't think so.
God, I thought this was his best role yet. So yeah, if you haven't picked it up, this time we're talking about
The Rock.
The Rock. The Sean Connery,
Nicolas Cage,
1996
buddy duo, two-hander.
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay directed his second movie ever made.
What was his first?
Bad Boys.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he went from Bad Boys to The Rock to
wow.
Armageddon.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. I didn't know.
1, 2, 3.
This is all before
boom, boom, boom.
I was paying attention to names and stuff like
right.
that. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, so if we are talking The Rock, do we have a theme song?
I think we do. Sketch. Do you want to take it away?
Sure. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh, no, no, no. I'm a rocket man.
Rocket man.
And if that doesn't make sense to you, you have never seen The Rock.
Clearly not.
Because that was perfect.
It was perfect.
It was perfect.
In the movie.
Referenced
in the movie.
And so that will be your one and only spoiler before the spoiler warning, guys.
Spoiler warning for the careers of Nick Cage, Sean Connery, Ed Harris.
Ed Harris. You know, I had forgotten Ed Harris was in this movie until basically
Ed Harris in this movie is the chef's kiss.
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. So this particularly was a Shades request.
I believe a listener request.
And I was just 100% on board. So
awesome.
So we're going to spoil the movie and those careers.
It's been so long since we done this. How do we usually start?
We usually start with our own
histories, right? Personal history
of The Rock. I'm assuming, per usual, you have a longer history with this movie than I do.
I don't know if it's that much longer, but Sketch, what's your history with The Rock?
This again was before I was seeing movies in theaters.
You had seen movies, but not movie theaters.
Correct. I mean, I had seen a handful
weren't allowed
of
in.
movies.
It's a long story.
There was a photo on the wall. Do not allow this child in. No sketches allowed. And I would say, you let Sketch McGillicuddy in, and they say,
we can have one.
We can have one. And I said, Simpsons did it. So The Rock was definitely a movie I caught on TV, a syndicated, on TV. My wife really likes The Rock. This is another one of those
Mrs.
movies.
Sketch?
Yeah, she grew up. I grew up with a father who liked comedy, and she grew up with a father who liked action.
Yes, I see that. I can. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Math checks.
So this is one that she had very fond memories of. So when I said, "Oh, we're doing it for the podcast," I'm going to watch it. She was all in, and I was like, this is probably going to be one of those instances where I've caught this thing on TV a couple times, but obviously I've missed stuff. I gotta say, on the rewatch, I think I'd seen the whole movie.
Right,
in bits and pieces at some point. Nothing surprised me. Everything came back to me when I watched it. So
it's interesting because in doing the research for it and thinking back to it, there were scenes that I was like, oh, I don't remember this happening this way. Mm-hmm. So it was heavily edited for violence on television. So it's like some of the a lot of scenes don't play
as graphic
gratuitously or graphically as they do if you watch it in a purchased copy. Some of the dialogue's edited, some of the the deaths are edited.
Oh yeah, there was absolutely some lines that I did not remember.
Yes,
absolutely.
Like there's we've already given the spoiler warning. One of the early once Mason and Goodspeed are
Mason being Sean
Connery.
And
Sean Connery.
And Goodspeed being Nicolas Cage.
Sir Nicolas Cage. There's a scene where he throws a knife and says, "You must never hesitate."
Yeah.
And it catches the guy right in the throat and goes through his throat.
Yeah.
Redacted from television.
Yeah, that wasn't there.
A ceiling mounted heater air conditioner also falls on a general. The scene ends when it starts to fall in the TV version. Yeah. In the if you purchase it, the actual cut of the film, it crushes him.
Oh yeah, twitching feet.
Does that you've had more experience? Is that normal?
Would you like me to kill him again? One of the best.
Sean Connery.
One of the best.
Fucking amazing in this movie.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is on the TV, nothing major was cut out that I missed plot points or I missed how did this character get there or what's the motivation here? Everything was
and that's
there.
Impressive because it's a movie that's over 2 hours.
Yeah.
So rarely do you get a edited for TV where it is
where you get
left
the whole
intact and you get the whole
potatoes,
thing.
if you will. So what's your history with The Rock?
Again, I had only ever seen this on television, similar to yours, but this is another one of those movies that birthday parties. You're hanging out at some friend. It's on TV. They own it. It's on in the background. It's one of those movies that we've talked about before that it's always on at a gathering, whether it's on television for a movie marathon weekend or somebody owns it, similar to an Independence Day or I can't remember what else we talked about.
Long-time listeners, I'm going to throw this out to you. If you could come up with a good term for this kind of movie that you just know you've seen,
it just lives in the cultural zeitgeist.
What should we call
it's so
those?
Ubiquitous.
What should we call those moving forward? LTLs
I like that.
Right into
the show.
I want a good phrase for that kind of movie.
We will. Let's make it a contest.
It's a contest.
Send your submission.
Everything's a contest.
And from then on, it will be insert your name here.
Whatever the thing is.
Whatever
we
the
can't
thing
give
is.
you the answer.
We can't give you the answer.
Yeah. Show your work. And there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Long division. Show the work.
So you know what we're talking about. So both of us had kind of seen this movie in that capacity.
And I would say I've seen this movie on television no less than 20 times.
Yeah. It's a frequent.
Our first year of college, do you remember we had clearly, so our freshman year was 2002, 2003?
Yeah.
The early days of broadband internet was relatively new. That was certainly the first time I had broadband internet. I still had dial-up at home, I think.
Same here.
Or we had just gone to broadband, but it was not. So they were just starting to package things, and our college clearly bought a package because our freshman year we had this crazy movie channel.
Oh, did we?
And I remember watching The Rock on that movie. We had a number of movie channels, and I remember watching The Rock on a actual television in my dorm room with my roommate.
There you go.
Who didn't give a shit, was not a movie person.
Yeah.
And I was geeking out hard over it. And headphones on, you're annoying me. Shut the fuck up. Go watch this somewhere else.
And that roommate was Sketch. And here we are.
That roommate was not Sketch.
20 years
We've already
later.
Talked about that.
Same relationship.
Yeah.
Same relationship.
So yeah, I've seen this a lot.
And you love it.
I do. I'm not I don't salivate at an action movie.
Yeah, no, neither of us are action movie.
I've seen a lot of them,
Yeah.
but I don't salivate at a traditional shoot 'em up.
Yeah.
Rah, special forces.
Yeah.
Good guys going in to save the day.
Yeah.
It's not my
No, it's not your cup of tea.
Not my cup of tea. Not what I geek out over. But I love this movie. I absolutely do. I think it really I'm dangerously close to raving here.
Dangerously close.
Okay, so I want Sketch to see
He's covering something, ladies and gentlemen.
My research for.
Oh, okay.
So the history is longtime listeners. This movie is bonkers. The research, I geeked out hard. I have 2 and 3/4 pages of history notes. I'm going to read it all, but I might edit it down
Yeah.
for the actual episode. And
maybe,
depending on if Sketch's eyes are glazing over or not, that'll be a good indicator.
here they go.
And if that happens, I will put the audio up on our Patreon if you want to hear the whole
That's
thing.
fair. That's fair.
So I'll let Sketch be the indicator, and I'll know pretty quickly if Sketch is in or out.
Boy, God. But I have to listen to the whole thing either way.
You do. You have to listen to the whole thing.
I'm paying in another way. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen.
The Rock was conceived as yet another blockbuster smash hit between producers Jerry Bruckheimer, Don Simpson, and director Tony Scott, who together made some of the biggest movies of 80s movie culture and American movie culture history. Those include Top Gun, Days of Thunder. They made Beverly Hills Cop and Beverly Hills Cop 2 with Tony Scott, the director, and also Crimson Tide. But director Tony Scott passed on this movie.
Interesting.
Read the script, or read the lack of a script, and was like, pass. Simpson and Bruckheimer then turned to newly minted action director Michael Bay, whose sole credit was the Simpson-Bruckheimer produced Bad Boys, to helm the project. The pair sold the script idea, so they had a spec script that was under 100 pages. They sold this idea to Walt Disney Pictures with just the spec script by David Weisenberg and Douglas Cook, with Tony Scott attached to direct. Now, unbeknownst to Disney, Scott had already said, not doing this. Yeah. So Simpson and Bruckheimer move forward with Michael Bay attached.
Okay.
They then approach Arnold Schwarzenegger to star in the picture. Now,
in which role?
So this is where it's unclear.
Yeah, okay.
Bruckheimer maintains they offered Bay maintained they offered Schwarzenegger the role of Stanley Goodspeed.
Okay. That would be
Schwarzenegger maintains that he was offered the Mason role.
Yeah.
It is.
He couldn't have been the Mason role. He wasn't old enough.
And that's what everybody's saying. Like this is Schwarzenegger waxing poetically in his later career that he could have played that Sean Connery part.
Because do you know this?
I think that agrees. I agree with that as well.
Do you know this off the top of your head? When did Alcatraz as a prison close?
1968.
Okay, so he could not have escaped that.
No.
And then this movie takes place like 30 years later.
Right.
And no, that's not believable.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. Mm-hmm. I think he was clearly, in my opinion, and based on my research, offered Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Because Sean Connery seems to have been in from the moment he read the script.
Good.
And Sean Connery in a weird in-between point. He'd done like the Highlander 1 and Highlander 2, The Quickening. Mm-hmm. But this is post-Bond. He's done some romantic comedies. He's done some art pieces. He
was in romantic comedies?
Yeah. I'm sorry, not romantic comedies. Like
romantic thrillers,
romantic dramas.
Romantic dramas.
And he's done Last Crusade. Sean Connery, 65 when he did this movie.
Wow.
He brings it, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're going to get there.
We'll get there. Okay, so they offered the role of Goodspeed. I'm going to stand on that, to Schwarzenegger, but he passed on it for Eraser.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you've ever seen, but it's a terrible movie.
I've not seen it.
Okay, Nick Cage catches wind of the project and convinced the producers to take him on. He wanted to prove to Hollywood that he could in fact carry an action movie. Because Hollywood was skeptical of this, he had just won Best Actor in 1995 for Leaving Las Vegas, in which he played like this very quirky, sensitive character. And Hollywood's like, nope, you're not believable as an action star. So Nick Cage wants to prove that he can carry an action movie.
Okay.
And so he's like lobbying hard for this role. And to me, that's like, when you think of Nick Cage now, I think he's most synonymous with Moonstruck.
Okay.
Maybe Leaving Las Vegas, but I don't ever think of that movie. He won an Oscar for it. But I think of Moonstruck, which is like his first movie. And then all of the like ridiculous action movies that he does Con Air right after this.
It's another one of my wife's favorite movies.
I also love Con Air, but that's a batshit movie crazy. Batshit crazy movie. Words are hard.
I'm going to take a hot take on this. Am I allowed to insert a hot take?
Sure, please.
I agree with both of them. I agree that Nick Cage could
Bizarre choice.
Carry an action movie.
Right.
But I also agree with the Hollywood execs who thought Nick Cage could not be the action hero.
Yeah. This is not a sure bet.
He is a specific type of hero, and I don't think that type of action hero existed before Nick Cage.
He did this, yeah.
So I agree, if they were looking for something very specific and very formulaic to what they had done before, I agree. They could have done it.
A great example of this, Guns Akimbo, is Daniel Radcliffe doing Nick Cage.
Yeah. And thank God Nick got in, because I think
I know.
That it worked.
Right.
And that he was able to carry it in his very Nick Cage way.
Right.
This isn't Nick Cage being a Bruce Willis
I would say this is the genesis of like ultra heightened, insane Nick Cage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
when does Face Off in his career? Is this after?
It's got to be. It's got to be after Con Air. And I think that's like 98 or 99.
Okay. Never saw Face Off.
It's got to be after this, because this is his turn as an action hero. And then he does Con Air in 90. This is 96. Con Air is 97. So Face Off has got to be 98 or 99. Face Off starts with child murder, full on Nick Cage. Spoilers for Face Off.
Second time we brought up a movie with child murder and are just talking today.
Yeah. Okay. Nick Cage is in. He convinces them to do it. Sean Connery. Already in. Demands rewrites to the script.
Okay.
So the team involved for the rewrites involve Mark Rossner, Jonathan Hensley, Aaron Sorkin, and Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, wow.
Are brought in to rework the script because it doesn't feel like it's working. Sean Connery insists that Dick Clement and Ian Lafranus be brought onto that team as well, specifically to rewrite Mason's dialogue to make it sound more British.
Okay.
And he's worked with them on a number of movies previously, most famous, his turn as James Bond in Never Say Never Again.
Okay.
Which is not official Bond canon.
Oh, interesting.
Takes place between two Roger Moore movies, and is not produced by Eon. We'll get into that later.
Oh, we're getting into that later.
We'll get into that later.
Wow.
So at Sean Connery's request, they're brought onto the team, and this new team takes the script and just like injects steroids into it.
Into the heart.
This team includes Aaron Sorkin.
Okay.
And Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, who's Aaron Sorkin? What would I know him from?
West Wing, The American President. Okay. God, what else is he? He's written like A Few Good Men.
Things I've recognized but haven't seen. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
big name.
The wordsmith of our age.
Sure. Gotcha.
In terms of TV and cinema.
And then the guy who loves feet was also
Quentin Tarantino, who's like the
foot guy.
Lover of classic cinema, and I don't know what the foot thing is about. Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, he's like
he's obsessed with feet.
Yeah, he has like a well-established foot fetish, and whenever shouldn't say whenever he's in a movie, but a lot of times when he is a movie, he includes a scene with specifically for that. It's like well documented. That is not me coming up with a sketchy theory.
I love Tarantino movies, but I know surprisingly little about him.
Yeah, it's for the best.
I think so. Nick Cage improvised and ad-libbed most of his dialogue and came up with the idea that Stanley Goodspeed would not swear until he's like gone through shit.
Yeah. I 100% believe all that.
Yeah. Ed Harris worked closely with Michael Bay and Don Simpson on the character of Hummel. Harris and Simpson came up with the idea of giving him this sympathetic edge after seeing an interview with retired General Hackworth on 60 Minutes talking about the cause that Hummel's championing in the movie, that like American soldiers who die on covert operations do not get compensation or recognition. That's like a travesty. So like that. So Harris and Simpson and Michael Bay like really continue to work on this character with Ed Harris. You know, they all say, most of them say Don Simpson dead. We'll get there. Contributing, like Ed Harris was fundamental in that.
Okay.
The Writers Guild of America refused to give credit to Sorkin, Tarantino, Hensley, Clement, and Lafranus on screen, saying that they had not contributed at least 50% of the content to the script. which Michael Bay blasted the guild for, and he did not submit any of his movies for writing credits to the guild after that. So that might also be why there's a certain stigma around Michael Bay movies.
Interesting.
So he was like, that's bullshit. This is a travesty. Like, the spec script was garbage. This movie is fantastic, and they're why.
Yeah.
So the only member of like the team that got writing credit was Mark Ronson.
I mean, we see the irony in that this movie is about a group of people who are not being credited for what they did. And then it happens in real life, albeit in two different arenas. But
right.
Okay.
There you have it. Disney was worried about the subject matter of the script, the level of violence, and the budget. And director Michael Bay, as he only had one credit under him at that point. They thought they were getting Tony Scott, who's like the golden goose.
Can long-term listeners, can you imagine a time in which Disney worried about the budget? That tells you how long ago this is.
Yeah. So this is produced under Buena Vista Entertainment, which is just anything Disney kicks a movie to if they're unsure if it's going to make money.
Yep.
They repeatedly called Michael Bay to meetings throughout the process for like kind of trying to like cajole him to stay on budget, that, you know, giving him notes in the script and monkeying, to which Sean Connery got wind of. And one day when Michael Bay was going to one of these meetings, Sean Connery shows up in golfing attire, which was weird, which I'll get to later why it was weird, and asks to go to the meeting with Michael Bay. Michael Bay walks in. Sean Connery walks in behind him, and a Disney executive tells the story from here, who's no longer with the company. We were all thrown off. We were all thrown so far off our game when Connery entered and immediately started berating us. Quote, this boy is doing good work, and you're living here in your Disney fucking ivory tower, and we need more fucking money. Now leave him alone.
Ladies and gentlemen.
End quote.
Mr. Sean Connery.
That was the last meeting with Disney. They got a bigger budget, and there were no more notes from Disney.
Sean Connery, ladies and gentlemen.
Connery referred to the 30-year-old Michael Bay as boy for the rest of the production.
Nice. That tracks. We're pushing 40, and I would expect Sean Connery to call me boy.
Yeah. Sean Connery, 65 at that time.
Yeah.
All reported that it was a difficult but rewarding shoot process due to the number of practical effects and filming on location in San Francisco and Alcatraz. Alcatraz was a functional national park at the time, so the American government says you can't shut it down because it's a bird sanctuary. So they could not stop tours. They could not shut down areas of the island.
Wow.
And shooting that car chase in San Francisco, Michael Bay says it was the worst experience of his filmmaking career.
Wow. Good car chase, though.
It is a good car chase. This is the only Michael Bay movie to have a certified fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
Yes, it's got a... Yeah, we'll get to that.
We'll get there.
Don Simpson died of an overdose, heart failure due to overdose before filming had even begun. And the crew and Jerry Bruckheimer hid it from Michael Bay.
Oh, wow.
They eventually broke the news to him near the end of the production run. And the quote, Sean Connery was nearby, overhearing the news, said, quote, not surprising, due to the legendary reputation of drug use.
Wow.
The plot, this one broke me. I had to tell Sketch before recording because I didn't want to drop this on Sketch in studio.
Buckle up.
The plot to The Rock inspired incorrect descriptions of Iraq's alleged chemical weapons program, which led to the US, UK, and Poland invasion of Iraq in 2003.
We're talking real world.
Real world.
Yeah.
So the invasion of Iraq in 2003, the Iraq War, which lasted close to 20 years, was inspired by the plot of this movie, in which a British MI6 agent alleged intelligence reports, which turned out to be lies. It's well documented. I had never heard this before, but apparently it's very well documented. That, quote, chemical nerve agents in glass beads in a concentric connected, the description of the chemical weapons in this movie.
It's like a Mardi Gras necklace.
Yeah, of glass beads with chemical agents inside of them were were documented in Iraq. Once the information was made public, outrage ensued. David Weisenberg remarked, quote, "If you just asked a chemical weapons expert, it would have immediately been obvious this was so ludicrous," because they purposely talked to chemical weapons experts, and they purposely constructed a method of delivery that was so ludicrous and outrageous, if someone reported it, or it would be immediately debunked as fictitious, because, as you can imagine, glass is not a delivery method for a chemical agent that you would like. It just cracks on its own in certain it was so ludicrous, no one would ever believe it. But that is what the and by the time it came out, this gives you a sense of how quickly the invasion of Iraq happened. By the time the information was able to be vetted, there were already troops on the ground in Iraq, and the country had already been destabilized, so there was no going back.
Wow.
That is cocoa bananas.
Cocoa bananas.
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
I have gone to multiple sources to this can't be true. This is just like the internet being the internet. And this is 100% well documented at this point. And it's also why in news reports, people stopped talking about what quote unquote weapons of mass destruction are, and why they just started using the abbreviation WMD, because they could substitute anything that they were looking for at that point.
Sure.
The chemical weapons having been established to be bullshit immediately.
Hollywood.
It is egregious and downright criminal.
That's too much fake world in our real world.
Yeah.
We don't normally go that way.
We don't usually go that way.
But I think this is the perfect case of too much fake world in our real world.
But to me, that's also an indication of how fucking good this movie is.
Yeah.
That it was it's plausible. It's 100%
plausible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a rave I wrote down, but so I'll say it now. But it's high stakes, but it's like a small, contained, believable.
You're gonna lose San Francisco.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people, but it's San Francisco.
Remember when we used to just lose cities and everything wasn't worlds and cosmic and multiverses and galaxies?
Yep.
Used to just be a city was a big loss. And
used to be. Just a drop in the bucket now.
Yep.
All right, sketch. That's the end of the history. We got through it.
All right, let me ask you this question.
Sure.
It's not a BQ, and I meant to ask it towards the top, but have you been to San Francisco?
I have only spent a layover in San Francisco, so I've never left the airport.
Okay.
I have a very good friend that lives in the Bay Area.
So then that answers my follow-up question, if you've ever been to Alcatraz. I haven't. I
took a virtual tour.
I have not been to the Rock myself either. Again, my wife loves this movie.
Yeah.
So when I spent the day in San Francisco a couple years ago, and she was like, "You didn't go to Alcatraz?" I was like, "No, that wasn't on the hit parade." Wow. I would have gone to Alcatraz. I've always wanted to go to Alcatraz. I was like, wow, okay.
I mean, it is one of those things that lives in my imagination, and I would like to go. And it's one of those things where I'm like, will it live up to the idea of the Rock that I've built in my head?
Yeah. That's what I think about before every single Dwayne Johnson movie. That's exactly what I say.
I think that's fair.
I did see it from the shore because I was at the pier.
Yeah.
And so I was aware that Alcatraz was there.
It's crazy how close it is to the mainland.
Yeah.
When you think about this was supposed to house the worst of the worst.
And it's really just the current that puts the distance between
and the sharks.
Yeah. So
the current and the sharks.
So so I've never been. So sorry.
I was a much younger man when I stormed this channel.
Sorry, honey. But we'll get there. Honey, we'll get there.
Field trip.
We'll get to the actual
sketch.
Yeah.
How much do you think it cost? How much do you think it made?
You know, I still hate this.
And I just want to say, we put so much worth on how much a movie makes these days. I don't think that, to me, I'm intrigued by this, by movies that have huge budgets that don't make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
What did they think?
What do you think that?
What do you think that number is gonna do when you throw a huge budget at something? Money doesn't make a better movie make. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily. And how much it grosses is not the sign of a good movie. I'm just always intrigued that like the correlation of the numbers seem to have nothing to do with how a movie plays.
Okay.
Spending more money doesn't play, but I think we place way too much emphasis on how much a movie makes now, to the point where things don't even get made anymore.
100.
The budget.
Yeah.
Okay. 100 million?
Oh, yeah.
Or $100? You're going to go with $100?
100,000. Right in the middle, except not in the middle at all. 100 million.
Okay. It's a good guess. How much do you think it made?
Oh, you're not going to give me the answer on that first?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. It cost, the budget was $74 million.
In the ballpark.
Yeah. That's a
in
great
the
guess.
ballpark.
How much do you think it made?
I do have memories of it in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know anyone at the time who saw it. I will say a success. Ooh, Sean Connery's in it though. I will say a success, but they wouldn't consider it a success. I'll go with $165 million.
It's a good guess. I'm going to give you some information.
Okay.
And let you reconfigure your numbers.
God. Just
it was
the
the fourth highest grossing movie of 1996, behind Independence Day.
Oh, wow.
Twister, and the first Mission Impossible.
Twister. Wow. 96 was a big year for my wife as far as movies
I have
go.
a friend that insists all good movies come from 1996.
Yeah.
And that's kind of skewed because it's like a person of a certain age,
Mm-hmm.
but like 1996 being the golden year of like Hollywood movies.
$273 million.
It's a better guess,
but still too low.
Still too low. Third and final?
Do we cross the 300 mark?
We do.
300
mm-hmm.
and $42 million.
That's a great guess, Sketch. $335.1 million on a $74 million budget. And to me, this is proof positive that money has nothing to do with the quality of the movie and how much it makes at the box office.
Yeah.
This is such a low budget movie for the amount of like on location shooting.
Mm-hmm.
You have the best actor.
Yeah.
Of the previous year. So like he's just gotten best actor and signs on to this in 95 and this movie comes out in 96. So he is the best actor in cinema, according to the Academy of Arts, Sciences, and Motion Picture. Sean Connery. Knight legend.
Enough said.
James Bond.
Yeah.
Or Ramirez from Highlander, depending on pick.
Father Jones.
Henry Jones Sr.
Yeah.
Ed Harris,
ladies and gentlemen.
I mean,
Dr. Cox is here too.
Is here. I texted you. I was like, "Oh, Dr. Cox."
It's tough to see Dr. Cox as a villain.
Yeah. This is a who's who. $74 million budget.
Yeah.
That's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket for an action movie in this era with the number of practical. Just the car chase alone.
Yeah. No, we're definitely in that point now in entertainment where big money doesn't equate what people want to see.
Right.
I mean, think of all of the independent content creators out there and how much people are just watching them without giant budgets.
Right.
It's got to have Hollywood a little shaken.
I would imagine so.
Because a lot of that money does go to very specific Hollywood jobs.
Correct.
And you do know that the first to go or the first to get hit are the people making the least.
Right.
Anyway, this is neither here nor there. But
that is my reason for including these numbers, not because it made so much money, it's a great movie, because like I love when we get like something with an embarrassingly low budget and then it just performs so well. Because
or the flop. I mean the flip-flop of that. I do.
I love when they spend a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
And it's so objectively bad. And what I don't like is people look at the opening weekend gross completely independent of like was there like a hurricane that weekend? Was there a natural disaster?
Perhaps a pandemic.
A pandemic. Totally unconnected.
Yep.
Out of context from what's happening on the ground.
Just looking at it in a vacuum.
How many theaters it's released in.
Yeah.
And like, oh, it made this in its opening. It's a flop. And then nobody goes and sees it.
Yeah.
Because Rotten Tomatoes, fuck you, is like, oh, fuck you.
Fuck you.
Rotten Tomatoes is, we give it a 30 because nobody went and see it and it only made like $7 million in its first weekend.
Oh, this is a perfect segue into
All important internet scores.
Internet scores.
And I don't even like including these anymore.
Guys, just note, we're saying all important very, very
sarcastically. I don't give a shit what Rotten Tomatoes thinks of a movie. If I see it and I like it, I don't care if it has like a 20% rating.
We're just giving you a
context for our scores.
Exactly.
Because that's what you're listening for.
So stop writing in, stop tying notes to bricks and throwing them through Shades' window.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm running out of windows.
Yep.
We're just
I think it's Big Window who's doing it, actually. They got you.
Giant glass.
They got you by the short hairs. All right.
All important internet scores. And I'm starting now with Google.
Yeah, because
you don't write a Google review if you hate something.
No, you don't.
86% of Google reviewers love The Rock. IMDb gave it a 7.6. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 68. Fuck you, Metacritic.
Did you say Metacritic?
I didn't.
Okay, that's fine then.
Fuck you, Metacritic.
Just because fuck you.
Yeah.
That's why.
And I gave it an 87.
Wow, you gave it an 87?
I did.
Oh, I thought you were going to go higher than that.
I thought about it, but there were some structural things that felt a little clunky. I started at a 92 and I worked my way back to an 87.
Yeah, see, I had an opposite reaction where I thought I was going to go lower, and then as I was thinking about raves and stuff, I was like, oh, I'm going to put this higher. So I'm at a 91.
Wow.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Takes place in the 90s, so it has to be in the... No, I'm just kidding. That's not part of this.
Yeah, I started at a 92 and I worked backwards.
Very enjoyable. Very enjoyable.
All right, I think that brings us to rants and raves.
Rants and raves.
Should I start with raves so that you can finish us off?
Yeah, I gotta finish us off because, guys, spoiler alert for this episode, but I have a rave that's going to turn into a rant.
And that's
one of those coins, two sides to this one.
Okay, my first rave, the cast.
Oh no,
Cage and Connery and Harris.
Yeah,
holy shit, the chemistry between Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery is so good.
No, really,
it's so good. I can't believe that they didn't go on to do this pairing across cinema.
I know.
I cannot believe they have such good chemistry together.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anything that was like, oh, Sean Connery hated Nicolas Cage and Nick Cage couldn't stand Sean Connery. And everyone appears to have had a great time making this movie. And Ed Harris is just, he chews some scenery in this movie, which it's a good script to begin with. But just Ed Harris, facial expression, or he's talking to no one on the other end of a phone.
Yeah, no, he's bringing it.
He really is.
You're taking all my raves.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'll just, if you want to piggyback off of that, go for it.
But I'll piggyback with Nick and Sean. One of the things I like about them is how surprising the pairing is. I would not have expected for them to work so well.
Is bonk.
Yeah, this should not
work.
But it does, and I said that because each one of them can be super serious and compelling,
right?
Depending on what the situation calls for in the scene. But also the other one can be, or both of them can be the light one, the very human one.
Yes.
The very, you have an emotional connection to them, and they bounce back and forth so naturally in this movie of okay, this scene requires Mason to be the heavy,
right,
and Nick is going to just naturally kind of, let's bring a little lightness to this, and then it can flip, and they're both in this movie so good at both of those jobs,
right,
that it works across the board from beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. And I also like how both of their stories are very in a lot of ways,
they're both sympathetic characters.
They're both sympathetic characters. They're both at different points in their life, but they're both at the same point in fatherhood,
right?
Where they have this child now all of a sudden,
new fathers.
Yeah, and there's just so much of Nick Cage could be looking at an older version of himself,
absolutely,
and Mason could be looking at a younger version. There's just so much of that where you would think that these two characters are polar opposites. The movie does such a great job of all right, let's just strip away all their titles and their deeds and what they've done. Let's just look at who these two men are, and that's why this is going to work. Not just the movie, but the plot of the movie.
They're at the core of the movie. They're two fathers trying to save their kids.
Yep.
And it's reduced down to this very human, personal, we can't fail.
That's great.
It is. And there's a moment in the movie which doesn't seem to work, where like Mason's like, fuck it, I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And in the back of your mind, you're like, he can't leave because they're gonna fire the rocket.
Yeah.
And
he's
his
not getting
daughter's
anywhere.
the daughter's gonna, but Stanley had to believe that Mason was gone in order for it to work.
Yep.
And it's a great and it doesn't seem to play. It doesn't play as well. I think it's the editing. But if Mason doesn't do that, Stanley doesn't do the thing. He relies on Mason, and Stanley had to go and do the thing so that Mason could be his support team. Mason couldn't defuse the bomb. Only Stanley could defuse the last rocket. Mason couldn't do it.
That is one of those instances in this movie that are in all movies where, okay, this has to happen for the movie to continue, but it doesn't flow as well plot-wise or character-wise. But
in once it plays out, it works much better. Yeah. Cool. It is your rave.
I'm going to go with the 2 opening establishing scenes.
Okay.
Right? So you have Ed Harris's scene, where they're kind of like storming, but not non-fatal.
Right. Nobody dies.
One guy except for one guy.
One guy gets thrown off of like a second story.
He's okay.
A second story staircase onto cement head first, but he's okay.
This is like
he's paralyzed, but he's alive.
Yeah, it's like comic morals where like, well, they're not dead, so it's okay.
It's okay.
So anyway,
paralyzed for life.
Non-lethal force stealing these missiles, this chemical weapon.
They steal the weapons. They're not missiles. They never say where they get the missiles from. They just steal the chemicals.
They steal the chemical agent.
One guy dies.
Which is necessary because it establishes how dangerous this thing is. And so plot-wise, it's necessary.
You spasm so hard, you break your own back while you're coughing up your intestines and your skin melts off.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Cut me some friggin' slack, a-hole. Improvised.
I'm not surprised at all.
In the moment, improvised.
So that opening scene with Ed Harris perfectly lays out everything you need to know about Ed Harris, minus his motivation, which naturally comes across later, which is like great storytelling. Fine with that. So I love that scene. And then directly after that, you have the Nick Cage introductory scene where you're introduced to not only him, but his job, his background, his history. And his character under pressure, which the rest of this movie, he's going to be under pressure. If you didn't have that scene, you'd be like,
I ate pressure for breakfast.
Yeah. You'd be like, what? This guy can't do any. This guy, he's such a slacker. He's such a silly willy. Like, we're all dead. But you have that scene that perfectly encapsulates, like, wow, this is when the intellect takes over.
Yes.
And maybe it's the adrenaline going to the brain instead of the muscles, and just he's saving the day.
Got a chemistry set when I was 7. Loved it. Burned my eyebrows off. Didn't see the cat.
Improvised?
Yeah, improvised.
Okay.
Never saw the cat again.
Those 2 scenes back to back to each other is like perfect exposition for me for the rest of the movie.
That Nicolas Cage scene followed by a shot of Nicolas Cage in a chair, naked.
Yeah.
Playing a guitar that is plugged in.
Yeah.
That he does not know how to play. He's just plucking the strings.
Yeah, that's your rave. The naked Nicolas Cage. Mine ends right before he gets
100% the creation of Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage clearly does not know how to play the guitar.
Sure. As someone who doesn't know how to play the guitar, it was believable enough for me because I don't know how to play the guitar.
Not fretting any notes, just literally plucking strings on an electric guitar that's plugged in. Cannot play the guitar.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think he was like playing a song. I just thought he was like mindlessly doing something that brings him comfort because he almost died.
Yeah, no.
But again, I don't play guitar, so it was enough for me.
That whole sequence starts with him getting like a vintage Beatles vinyl, right?
Yeah.
That he's been searching for.
And he's hiding from his girlfriend because it costs way too much.
They don't.
But you know what? I'm going to give you this one frustrating you because we have a property coming up that I need to talk about something that frustrates me, which probably doesn't frustrate a whole lot of people.
Probably not.
So yeah, those 2 exposition scenes are just like on tier of like excellence for like, this is how you start a movie and how you explain the stakes, the characters, and the pacing of this movie moving forward without like just exposition. So.
Yeah. Okay. I 100% agree with that. I will say the action sequences are fantastic. They are nuanced. They move the plot along. Specifically, Womack going over the ledge. John Spencer is thrown over the ledge of a building and it's just like held on with a clothesline.
Yep, on his wrist. Yep,
on his wrist. That was a real shot, done practically. It terrified the people on the street and the hotel so much there were over 36 calls to San Francisco police, not knowing that a movie was being shot.
Yeah, that's fair.
The car chase.
Car chase is great.
Michael Bay is known for a car chase, and this is a great one. And it's not just a car chase for the sake of a car chase. It's not just like a bad guy trying to get. Mason is trying to get to his daughter. There's a purpose, and he's already set up a meet with his daughter, and he has to get there. And to do that, he's got to get away from the FBI.
Yep.
The shower ambush. When they come ashore in Alcatraz and they go up through the shower.
That's tough. That's tough to watch.
It's tough to watch, but it's done so well.
Yeah, it's tough to watch because it is done well. I don't mean that like, oh, this is bad, I don't want to watch it.
That scene is copied. The sequence in its entirety is copied in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Oh, well.
Identically. It's a shot-for-shot recreation in this. They've just like mapped it, taken it right out of the movie and used it. The bomb strike. That practical effect is like I don't know how they did that on Alcatraz with it being a bird sanctuary.
And they couldn't close it.
They could not close Alcatraz. I don't know how they did that, but they did it. It looks great. Nothing, with the exception of one, nothing in the movie just explodes for explosion's sake, except for one, and I do mark it as a rant.
Okay, I'm excited to hear that because I can't think of it right now.
It does bring me to rants. Should I just say it now? Because it's not a big rant, but it is a rant.
Okay, go ahead, say it.
There is one thing that explodes. In the car chase, the trolley car comes off of the cable car comes off the cable, slides into a car, and the car explodes. And that felt like a Disney note to me because it was so bad and so like not connected to anything. And it's clearly on a crane. It explodes and it is like lifted into the air, like a la magic carpet, and comes down on its side. But with the exception of maybe some paint, the trolley isn't really damaged.
Yeah,
it's just a wood cable car. It should have, like, when it hit the ground, it should have splintered into a million pieces. Shattering. It falls on its side and just like slides forever. Yeah. So there's like that one car just randomly explodes. Everything else in the movie, like nothing else does that. No. And I thought it was very like that's. Say what you want about Michael Bay. He loves an explosion.
He does.
Like everything. There was a Verizon commercial when we were in college where like that was the whole thing. It was like epic grilling, epic robot, epic pool, and like he had a button and everything just exploded. Yeah. He knows how to like execute an explosion, and that was like the one exception. So all of the action scenes, and that's part of the car chase sequence. So like it's a rant, but it's not like a big rant.
Yeah.
It felt like a note that like they wanted more explosions.
Can you believe he had to give that note to Michael Bay at some point in his career?
Yeah, I know, right?
Not enough explosions, Michael.
So I was just thoroughly entertained where like
that's what I'm saying. It's
all
a
the
very
action sequences
movie.
are nuanced and push the plot forward. Yeah. Like every room that they've been pushed into every. They're never like making their plan like now we're going to do this, now we're going to like they're always reacting based on the environmental and like the moments of what is happening on the island to them. They're always reacting.
Yeah.
And that's the movie pushing them along.
Yeah. Yeah. That shower scene is super emotionally charged.
It is.
Too. So tense. So tense. It's absolutely when you said let's do The Rock, that's the scene that like I heard the name The Rock and that's exactly what I thought of first was that shower scene. That like that sticks.
It does.
That sticks in your memory. All right, I got one last rave. And this is my rave that's going to go into a rant.
Okay.
So let's start.
You're done with your raves?
Yeah.
I
thought you said you were.
Nope.
You were
I was
launching
done
into
with
rants.
that.
It just was. It was also tied to a rant.
Yep. Can I just give my last rave then?
Sure.
I have two quick ones. I just want to say the cinematography. John Schwartzman's the cinematographer. Alcatraz is a character. Today, this movie would have all been done on green screen in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so kudos to Michael Bay for insisting that it be shot on location in Alcatraz and to Schwartzman for capturing The Rock and really making it a character in this movie. It's just so fun, and it's like works so well.
Yeah.
My very last rave.
Okay.
Mason is James Bond.
Mason is James Bond.
John Mason.
Yeah.
Is James Bond.
Okay.
Even the name, like John Mason.
Yeah.
James Bond.
Oh.
Get it?
I get it now. Now that you say it out loud,
he's
like
James
that.
Bond.
Yeah.
All right. So that is a rave for me. And
That's
then
it. Yeah.
My first rant is he's James Bond.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. So my last rave is all about Ed Harris and his villain. And what's his name? Hummel?
General Hummel.
General Hummel. Infamous hot dog peddler and military, right? It's the same Hummel.
There's a brand of hot dogs called Hummel.
Hummel Brothers, yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, well, Doodle is a hot dog aficionado.
He is.
So I imagine you have a lot of experience.
And
with
I have
hot
a
dogs.
friend who is the pinnacle of hot dog aficionados.
Okay, so I guess yes, he's one half of the Hummel Brothers.
Yeah, so that's my rave. That he's one half of the Hummel Brothers,
Okay.
and it's nice to see Big Hot Dog finally make it into a movie. That isn't Oscar Mayer. That's anywho, off my hot dog pedestal for a second.
But interestingly, also German. Hummel Hummel's also German, right?
Sounds like a German name, but
Yeah.
I'm not willing to stake my
Big hot dog
reputation
in the
on it.
pocket of Germany.
Yep.
It's, well publicized and documented. Today's episode brought to you by Big Hot Dog.
Big Hot Dog.
Hummel Brothers hot dogs.
Big Hot Dog.
Good to the last bite.
The only replacement for me in my house is a Big Hot Dog. We learned that today. And guys, that one's just for us. You don't need to know
that is the definition of an inside joke, but an adorable one.
Okay, so Ed Harris's villain is just so good. Like,
yeah.
He is as good as the pairing of Nick and Sean in this movie. He is like calculating and he's commanding, but he's not cold.
No.
Like, you're so used to that character of like, this is an emotionless, almost like robot of a character who doesn't care about anything.
It almost might. I was watching this and saying to myself, like, it almost would have worked better if he was playing the Man in Black from Westworld.
Oh, yeah.
That would have like been more believable with the group of
that is Ed Harris.
That is Harris.
It?
Yeah, it's Ed Harris.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
He played Mr. Potter in the staged reading of A Christmas Carol for the Ed Asner Foundation this year.
Cool.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And he looked like he was like in a Man in Black's cabin with a fire in the background. It was
very nice.
Oh, Ed Harris. You're just like a down to earth guy.
Ed Harris.
Today's episode brought to you by Ed Harris
and Big Hot Dog.
And Big Hot Dog.
So like he's driven by emotion and duty and honor, and like I'm all on board. You totally sympathize with him.
Sure.
Carries the plot of this movie all the way forward.
Yes.
Right. Now I have to get into where that turns into a rant.
I have a Hummel rant too, so I'm
because
going to piggyback on this.
Then it bites you, because I 100% absolutely agree that his character needed to die when and how he does.
Okay.
Where his men turn on him because
he never had any intention of killing,
of actually harming innocent people. And he had the full belief that the government was going to give in to his demands, and nothing would come out of this except for righting a wrong.
Right.
And everyone would, the biggest sacrifice anyone was going to have to make was
they never get to set foot on American soil again.
So when he comes to that realization that, like, shit,
right,
we're done now.
Yep.
They beat us, blah, 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 blah. And so his men turn on him, and then they got the shootout, and he dies that way, kind of regretting everything.
Right.
I agree. Had to been done for his character, to stay true to his character. But then, and this is why it offends me as sketch, it takes away comeuppance. Because now you've replaced, for the big action climax of the movie, you have two bad guys left.
Well, more or less, yeah.
But like
two main bad guys.
Two main big deaths are coming up here.
Yeah. Yep.
And they are nameless characters. They are one-dimensional. They just want to be paid.
Right.
They're like bloodthirsty and need their money. And like that's all it is. And so again, awesome Ed Harris. You couldn't have done his death any differently, but then it's like I needed these characters to get a little injection of some sort of character development or something, so that when they died, it wasn't just a cool death. It was like, ha, fuck you. Like, you got shot out of a window with a rocket.
You like Elton John? You know the song Rocket Man? It's You're
love
the Rocket
that
Man.
Scene.
That is
because the actor is like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Fuck it. That is not in the script.
And they like leave it in and it's just the actor being like,
he is so confused.
Yes.
And then he gets shot out a window.
Love it. And that's why the theme of this episode is Rocket Man. And then the other guy who gets the ball like smashed into his mouth.
Like, that was kind of comeuppance.
I mean, it was comeuppance,
but it was not. Yeah, Ed Harris needed the comeuppance.
Yeah. But he was like too sympathetic to get the comeuppance.
Right.
So it's the classic comeuppance conundrum that I like to say.
Well, I mean, I will agree with you that the movie feels like it's missing something. Yeah. I don't agree that Ed Harris needed comeuppance, but to me, what the movie is just lacking because Ed Harris is just missing from the last like almost 40 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. And
I thought there were like 15 minutes left when he dies. I'm like, oh, there's like almost half the movie left.
I'm not saying that his character needed comeuppance, because I think he did get he got appropriate comeuppance in that he died by the hands of his men,
right,
with regret.
Right.
That is the fitting end to that character.
Correct.
But then like you're saying, then there's a lot left.
Yeah. And it's carried by one-dimensional goons. Who, and
those two aren't even at the heist at the beginning of the movie. They join
later.
They have the least amount.
There aren't enough bad guys left at that point that you're ever in doubt that Mason and Goodspeed are going to fail.
Yeah.
And the brain behind this thing is now dead.
Yeah. As soon as they kill him, you're like, we won. We won the day.
Right. Like they're gonna figure this out. It's just like,
and now it's just watching to see them win.
Right. I would say that one of two things needed to happen. Something needed to happen where Hummel like changes and was like, fuck it, I just want the money.
Yeah.
And fights them to the very end. Mm-hmm. Or Hummel needed to join them and more of the goons needed to be left on. They needed to have more goons on the island and Hummel needed to join them to like create the strategy.
Yeah.
So that Stanley can get to the rocket.
Yep.
And that would have felt more gratifying because I 100% agree. The movie is, I think we're saying the same thing. The movie is lacking because of the absence of Ed Harris for the remainder of the film.
Yep.
Cool. I will go to this one. Hummel is so in control and with it that there's never a minute that I believe he would have rolled up with this crew. Clearly his subordinate put the crew together and he's so like planned every facet of this. Really, the only variable in this situation is not Mason and Goodspeed and how the American government will react. It's the unpredictability of the soldiers that he's rolling with.
Yeah.
And to me, this character just would not have done that. He would have hand-picked every single person on this team.
Like he did for getting the chemicals.
Correct. Because you're absolutely right. The people who got the chemicals are not the people who showed up on the island.
Right.
It's a different crew.
They do have that small scene where those two show up and Hummel's like, oh, so-and-so vouched for you. That's good.
Right.
That's good for me. And it's like, that wouldn't be good for this character.
No. Yep. You will never convince me of that.
Yep.
Is it your rant or my rant? I piggybacked on your rant. Okay. My first rant, Carla.
Okay.
Stanley Goodspeed's girlfriend. There is one part for a female character in this movie.
There is.
And saying that she's two-dimensional feels overgenerous.
Oh wait, there's Mason's daughter as well.
That's fair, but I mean we get like 10 seconds with her.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's but I'm just saying before the internet writes in.
Sure, there's a second character
part for a woman,
and there's a third part for a woman who I think all she says is, "Are you good?"
Oh yeah, her friend
who shows up and then immediately leaves. Yep. Okay, so there is a second small part for Mason's daughter. I take it back, but like a principal character, one principal character, main part for in this movie, Carla. And saying that she's two-dimensional feels overgenerous. The depiction and attitudes towards women in this movie are egregious and borderline criminal. Carla, like her sole motivation is shopping
Mhm.
and being a mother
And getting
and
married.
getting married.
Mhm.
And it's when your movie is that sparse,
Mhm.
you need to do better.
Mhm.
And I think that's indicative of the team of writers.
Mhm.
Like just knowing that Quentin Tarantino worked on this movie, with the exception of Kill Bill, he has not really been. He does not really write women.
Yeah, I only know of his foot fetish. I don't know much of his like his movies.
Right.
I've seen Pulp Fiction.
It's usually
And
like an ensemble
I
of
have
grizzled.
Seen Kill Bill. I have seen Kill Bill once.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is fantastic,
Yeah,
in which a fictionalized version of Sharon Tate is in the movie.
Mhm.
And though she is the main character of the movie, it feels like strikingly empty.
Interesting.
So he doesn't do like women
Mhm.
justice in his movies. It's like a criticism of him.
I think the movie I watched for Halloween this year was a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Dusk Till Dawn,
Yes.
which he's in
with
George Clooney.
Yes.
Salma Hayek.
Holy
Yeah.
shit. There's a foot fetish scene for you. Don't you remember that?
Oh, right. Yeah. Wow. Okay. When you say it and you put them together now, then you're like, oh, boy.
Light spoilers for that movie. What a turn.
Yes.
What a turn in that movie.
Yeah.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
I knew nothing going into that movie. Halfway through the movie, I was like, I get this movie. I'm in. I'm involved.
Yep.
What the fuck
just
is
happened?
going on? Yeah, crazy.
That feels like a movie that's very much like in vein of Demon Knight, but not as well constructed.
I much prefer the first half of that movie to the second.
Oh yeah, yep. The bank robber brothers.
I wanted to see that finish out.
Tarantino got George Clooney for that movie. He was like, I'm going to make you an action star.
Yeah,
that was his pitch.
Did he?
I mean, yes.
Okay.
Clooney did action movies.
Tarantino's character in that movie.
I'm going to make you look really cool.
Was scarier than anything else in that movie.
Yeah.
All right. This is not the whatever
not the
that movie name.
So yeah, the depiction and treatment of women for a movie that's so good otherwise.
It's very good otherwise.
It just felt like a bleeding wound from a fatal gunshot.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you? Yeah. No. Yeah. I get what you're saying. I hear you.
And there, I mean, like Carla just spends the back half of the movie just sniveling into a tissue.
Oh yeah, she's just.
I don't even. What is Mason's daughter's name?
She's a character trope.
Man. I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't remember. No, she's no. They're weak. They're written very poorly.
So memorable. I can't remember the character's name.
Yeah, I don't remember her name. Was it Sky?
Maybe it might be Sky.
Also, might not be Sky.
That feels like it is, but
there's
also
been a lot of
be.
Paw Patrol on in our house lately, so that could be bleeding together.
We should do an episode on Paw Patrol.
But that is telling,
right?
Because I can remember the dogs' names of Paw Patrol.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. I think that illustrates my point perfectly.
God.
That's the rant.
That's the Paw Patrol scaling system. This is kind of similar to what you're saying, although not completely. A couple of the mid-90s tropes are like too crazy and cringy to kind of get through.
Okay.
And here are my examples of that. One of the things I'll put in there is like the minecart chase.
Oh,
seems pretty hokey. So that was like, nah, okay. That was like
minecart and then suspended coal cart. They get both of them.
Yeah,
I'm putting them
all together in one thing.
It's very tropey.
Very tropey. The old lady with flowers that shows up in the middle of the car chase. That was also like, wah, wah, like when is this movie taking place?
Yeah.
And then the very poor, very like offensive display of the very effeminate stylist who does the hair.
And do we have time to have cut and color?
Yes.
No.
And then like after all this shit happens,
I just want to know if you like your haircut.
That's it. Oh,
if you're happy with your haircut.
Those are tough to get through. Those scenes
not
are
okay.
Those scenes are tough to get through. Just because
that is egregious.
Yeah.
I do have that note.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing it up.
So yeah, those were just the moments where I was like, "Oh, this thing's so well crafted. I'm really enjoying myself. This is entertaining."
But we often expect like characters who are larger than, like people who are larger than life, and characters and like writers, artists, we always have this expectation that they're going to be somehow like evolved past the general conceptions of their age. And that's just not true. Like, even if you look at the great artists or the great philosophers, they are formed by and products of the age that they are.
Absolutely. I'm a huge supporter of that.
Which is not an excuse for like the offensiveness of the two things, like the things that we just talked about, in terms of like its depiction of like a character who appears to be LGBTQ.
Yeah.
And the women in this movie.
Well, they're playing hard. They're written very hard at the stereotype.
Correct.
So for me, I 100% agree with like we were talking about with another part of this movie. Like, you have to take the context of the time that it was made. When these things stand out to me is when they're like now, if Michael Bay makes a sequel and this character reappears and they're the same character they were in 1996, well then like let's get the pitchforks. But when they stand out to me is when these things are like added in as like just like a gag. Like this is gonna be a cheap laugh.
Right.
Like everyone's gonna like.
I have this note later for a different thing we're gonna talk about.
Okay, with maybe not the minecart. The minecart, I guess, wasn't for a cheap laugh, but the old lady with the flowers and like the hairstylist were like written specifically to like inject humor into this,
right,
in a very not timeless way. And so when you watch them, they're like a big bump in the road that's otherwise pretty smooth.
I strongly agree with that. I have 2 rants left. They're both very short. Okay. Do you have any rants left?
I have one more.
Okay. It's not a big question, but it's a question. How did Mason in 1963, when he escaped, how did Mason have knowledge of how to get into and navigate the underground?
Yeah, I wrote in my notes, I didn't put this here.
How did he know about the underground, and how did he know to get into the underground in 1963?
While I was watching it, I did think to myself, he knows way more than just escaping.
Correct.
This is like, you almost expected them to be, and it wouldn't have worked with Alcatraz because of how long Alcatraz was there, but you almost expected like this movie to be like, oh yeah, this guy escaped, but they don't talk about why. And then like Mason is like, oh, I helped build the place. I knew all of its secrets. You know, and
Wait,
then
does he say that?
No.
Oh,
but I'm
okay,
saying he knows it so intimately,
exactly,
that you feel like he was more than just a prisoner,
right?
And he knew more than just his escape route.
I mean, he does say he's British intelligence, and that he was, and so this brings me to my last rant. He's James Bond.
He is James Bond,
because that is 100. Like, how does James Bond get out of any trap? Like, at one point, he's tied to a, is it Goldfinger or Dr. No? I can't remember where he's tied.
Very few James Bonds.
He's tied to a table, and there's either a laser that's going to cut him in half, like from the groin to the head, or a buzzsaw. It's either a laser or a buzzsaw. I can't remember what it is. And he's never in any jeopardy because he's James Bond. He's going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And so my rave is that Mason is James Bond. My rant is that Mason is James Bond.
Yeah.
And I think the writers also think he's James Bond.
Yeah. I do think if this movie were made today, because of how audiences have changed and what they want in movies have changed, I do think that Sean Connery's character of Mason would have died at the end of the movie, sacrificing himself so that Nick Cage's character could actually start the relationship with his child that Mason missed out on for his entire life.
Right.
I think that's what would have happened. I don't think that would have happened in a 96 movie. Because you need like both your heroes to live by the end of the movie, just like in Independence Day. Spoilers for Independence Day, but no, I agree.
So he's James Bond.
Yeah,
the writers think he's James Bond, and I have a sketchy theory that I'm calling a shady theory.
Yeah, shady theory that
I would like to share with you, but I don't know when those usually go.
You can do it right now. Usually, if it's related to what you just said, this is the perfect time.
It is, but I will. Should I let you finish your rants?
Okay, I have one last rant. It's very small, but it really took me out of the movie.
Okay.
The casual reveal that aliens did, in fact, land at Roswell did not belong in this movie.
No.
It's just... and it's that same thing with all these mid-90s tropes.
The casual reveal of aliens The assassin
Yeah.
who actually shot JFK.
Yeah. Like, just the casual reveal that, like, oh, by the way, you know how this movie's, like, completely grounded and completely realistic? Also, aliens exist!
I'm doing the meme. Aliens!
Yeah, like, that was just another one of those moments that it was like, wait, what? This was just thrown in there for people to be like, I see what you did. No, I see what you did there, and I did not like it. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's my last rant.
Should we do big questions first?
If
because then my last question is John Mason actually James Bond?
Which will lead into your
my shady theory.
Sure.
Cool.
Do you want me to go first? Because
let's do big questions.
Okay. What is more believable?
I'm in already. Okay. Game face.
That Sean Connery is a very fast walker, or that Nicolas Cage is a very slow reader?
It's such a small note.
It's such a small note at the end of the movie.
Okay. For context, if you look at a picture of Alcatraz Island, there is a building on the South Shore. So if you're out in San Francisco, you look towards Alcatraz, and there's just like a cement structure. All the wood, the roof is burned out. It just looks like a tic-tac-toe grid.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting on one side of it. Sean Connery gives him a note. Nicolas Cage reads it.
It's a note that literally just says like a location.
It's just It's a town in Nebraska.
A church.
The name of the church.
And what pew.
Right, first pew, right leg. Hollow.
Where this film is. Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
And while Nick Cage is reading, Sean Connery goes from in front of him to the complete opposite side of the
30
grid.
30 yards away.
And then Nick Cage, like we as the audience see him there.
Yeah.
Then Nick Cage looks up.
And he's gone.
So which is... Nick Cage is an incredibly slow reader,
or Sean Connery is a very fast
or Sean
walker.
Connery is a fast walker.
Because he's not out of breath when he's over there. I don't think he runs. I think he walked over
I'm gonna go. Oh yeah, he definitely walks. I'm gonna go with Sean Connery as a fast walker.
Yeah, I do too.
Because it's not the first time that he does something like that.
If Nick Cage had just been shown like sounding out the words, that would have been perfect. Like, he's completely unaware of the state of Nebraska. And he's like, Nebraska? Does he mean Nevada? I've never heard of...
Oh, it's Kansas. It is Kansas.
Kansas? Kansas.
What
could this mean? And then, like, the sun sets, and he looks up.
You...
Pew pew.
Pew, pew, pew.
That's my first BQ. Okay, so the answer is
Stanley
Sean Connery.
Goodspeed is a chemical weapons expert.
Yeah.
Which, he's got some letters. He's got some college letters.
Some letters. He's got some degrees.
I'm gonna go with Mason as a fast walker.
Fast walker.
Okay. First big question. And this took me out. It was a rant that turned into a big question.
Okay.
Can retired generals just roll up to active military bases to inspect secret stockpiles of weapons of mass destruction?
Yes. This is a pre-9/11 world. So,
like, is that how it works?
Yeah. No, I agree.
You're at one point you were a general, so you can just like,
yeah.
I want to see the nuclear weapons.
And he's very well known too.
He's famous.
They notice.
Everybody
him right
knows
away.
him.
They don't even question it because they know him. Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works. You see how poorly everything's run.
It is a shit show.
And so
it explains a lot about 9/11.
Yeah.
It really does. Like the military security, procedures of the American government.
Yeah.
It explains a lot about a pre-9/11 world.
Oh, yeah. Isn't there even just like a scene? Oh, I think it's just when they're talking to like the slightly lower government guy. And he's like, shows that no one's ever escaped. And then he's got like pull him away. Okay,
yeah,
actually. Yeah, there's shit you don't know.
Yeah.
And there's aliens too. Just because that's probably going to come up later. And I don't want you to act surprised in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, like that would have changed the movie to me completely as any other character.
Aliens.
All right.
Oh, okay.
My next question is, we've established in the opening that I love so much.
Yes.
That these glass balls are very fragile.
Yes.
And it drops and it shatters against the cement wall.
Yes.
How does it survive in Nick Cage's flak vest? Being
jumping
thrown
around,
through walls.
he's jumping, he's landed on his belly and chest,
and it's
gets into a
sturdy
fist
enough
fight
to withstand all that, and then it goes back to being fragile when he puts it in the guy's mouth and just hits up on his chin and chomps it down with his teeth.
Yeah. How did that guy not just start dripping blood from his mouth?
Should have,
right?
They thought that would be too gruesome.
Glass in his mouth. I mean, he then melts.
He does melt.
So, I mean, if you just bite down on glass in your mouth, that's gonna.
That's what I always tell people. Glass tastes like blood if you chew on it long enough. Learn that.
I mean, I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's almost ranty because
it is.
It
is.
Yeah.
I mean, Mason is just holding them at one point, and Nick Cage is
he freaks out.
Yeah. Gotta respect it.
These are
sneeze the wrong sneeze and we're dead.
Yes. And then he puts it in his pocket.
Top flak vest pocket.
Yeah, and again, he's not intending
thrown
to then get
through a wall,
thrown around and kicked around and beat up so much.
Right.
But we, the audience,
know it's in there. It would
have
been safer in his leg pocket.
Oh, absolutely.
Which he has. There's atropine in his leg pocket.
There is.
Okay. The shower ambush scene.
Yeah,
the Navy.
ambush.
Michael Biehn, Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
Mandalorian.
He's in the middle. Okay.
Yeah, when we meet Ahsoka Tano. Spoilers for Mandalorian.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yep.
Michael Biehn leads his men up through the shower grate.
Yeah.
They all go up. One Navy SEAL stays behind with Mason.
Right.
And Goodspeed.
Yeah.
The massacre, epic gun battle.
It's terrible.
All the SEALs die. The last SEAL looks at Mason and goes up, up through what did the last Navy SEAL think he was going to do? His team is totes dead.
Yeah.
Don't they train for this sort of thing?
I know.
It was almost a rant, but I get that it's a movie. Because in that moment I was like, wait a minute. These are the best of the best Navy SEALs. Don't they train for my whole team is dead, I'm the last one? There's got to be some procedure. He just the last bullet is fired.
No.
He goes
it
up, doesn't even get a shot off.
It was terrible too because, okay, for starters, this isn't because we're going to get dangerously close to rants because we're going to go off on this for a second. But I understand movie storytelling point of view why that scene was very tragic, you know, because he goes up to his inevitable death and he knows it and blah 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 blah. But yeah, because at this point too, you can't even make the argument well, that's it, the mission's over, everyone's dead. You still have your chemical guy. And you have the most amazing escape artist in the world,
right?
And
a Navy SEAL.
You gotta now you gotta shift your priority,
right?
And your priority is all right, now you're just one guy, but you got to stick with these two
because you got to get them to the objective.
Your thing will not be accomplished without this. Yeah, that should have absolutely been his training. I mean, it's good that he was casted as such a young guy,
right?
So you could think that this is the lowest guy on the totem pole, and he's the youngest recruit. But even at that,
they're
to make it into that team,
right?
Yeah, to make it into that team, he should have known better. But it's just so goddamn sad, And then
it would have been more believable if he doesn't go up, and the first time they encounter
the bombs, a bomb blows up.
or the first time they encounter other soldiers, Mason just pushes him out, so that he's killed, and they think the whole team is dead.
Yeah,
that's more believable to me.
More believable.
That Mason gets him killed so that they think everyone is dead.
Yeah. I don't know if 96 though they would have been willing to let the hero kill a good guy soldier.
Yeah.
It does lead to the very fun line though of well, he's got a gun, sir. And he's well, what do you have? A pea shooter?
Right.
And he's got the gun, and then Mason takes the gun. He has both of the guns now, sir.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. And also, sending Nick Cage in, I get why, but not. That wasn't a good play
either.
Just
put him on comms.
Put him on comms, or have your SEAL team clear the place,
right, and then bring him in.
Then you can chopper him in, and it'll take a little bit of extra time, but
send 4 helicopters to infiltrate Alcatraz and like mass them all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why did they send so few Navy SEALs? Because that's all you need.
Hummel's plan was so much tighter than any response that the military put together in this movie. But to be fair, Hummel had like years to concoct it and come up with it and plan it. And these guys were just like, well, we got like what, 36 hours or 48 hours or something like that. So, you know, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. Plus, they were high on hot dogs. Like 2 days before, they didn't show it in the movie, but they were like this like free hot dog buffet for the San Francisco like City Hall, and like they're just high on potassium and rat meat, and they cannot come up with a good plan. It's the only way this movie works out.
Oh my god. Okay.
I have one last big question.
Go for it.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to try and give you a big A here. Game face. Game face.
Mason, it is established when they first get onto the island, when they pop up from like the sewer drain or whatever that is, that Mason's the only one who can get them in past the weird boiler furnace of death thing, because he memorized the timing of the thing. Why did he need to memorize all that if he knew how to open the door from the inside as effortlessly as he does?
That's a great question. Because in 1963, when he escapes, there are guards in the tunnel.
That is true. Okay, so that door has just always been unlocked, but there was a person there.
I don't know if it's unlocked. I think it's locked, but it opens from the inside, and there are guards.
Which just seems like not how you want to install a door on a prison where it doesn't lock from the outside.
Because so the setup of that, here's the setup of that. The Rock is built on an old Civil War fort. So none of the doors would open from the outside. They all open from the inside, because this is assumably this is the historic part of the even older part of the fort, the subterranean part. And this cistern was for getting water and waste and things like in and out of the in and on and off the island in the event of a military siege. So none of the doors open from the outside.
Okay.
Which is fine for him to get out, but there's a guard there, but you can't get in.
Okay.
That's my answer.
Okay.
I tried to give you a legitimate answer. Now, wouldn't those doors have all been changed from the time it was a Civil War fort? I would assume so, but that's my best legitimate big A.
That's not a Civil War
door?
Boiler room.
Well, the boiler is built into the cargo entry for like bringing, because that cistern's gigantic also. Like, so that's like how they brought like munitions in. Yeah. They brought them in underwater with an iron turtle.
Yeah.
And then they hoisted it up, and the boiler's built into the old cargo. Well, that's like there was a cargo door, and it was just big enough, so that's what they built the boiler into.
There you go. And they didn't think to change the door when they updated the boiler.
It's my best attempt at a big A.
It's okay. It's a good attempt. I'll give you. It's a good attempt.
I tried hard. Makes no sense.
Because at first I was like, maybe he picked the lock.
But he's James Bond.
He is James Bond.
Shouldn't he have just been able to knock the guard out and open the door?
Well, yeah.
He's the best of the best. He's been trained by the best.
Yeah. And he gets to that door very quickly. So like he pops out of the other side of the boiler somewhere close to that door.
Right.
But you know what? It's okay. And also the army was like the SEALs were like, that's it. He abandoned us, knew he was going to flake. It's like he just broke into a prison. Like, where's he going at this point? He walked into a prison that's completely held hostage at gunpoint. Right. Like, maybe don't jump to conclusions so quick.
Right.
He's not going anywhere.
Right.
There's nowhere to go.
He's on the wrong side to
He's
escape.
on the wrong side of this thing to escape.
Left us. He's just going to sit in there and like let the whole thing play out.
Yeah.
And then open. Yeah. It made no sense.
Also, I really hope they didn't show it. They didn't show it, so we can't assume he did it. But I really hope that before he rolled through all that fire, he took the kerosene out of his pocket.
I know. We know he didn't.
Oh, no.
Because he had it later.
He did have it later, but maybe after he opened the door, he picked up his kerosene again. Again, those
They
were on the
don't show
cutting
it,
room
but
floors.
I'm pretty sure he went through with the kerosene.
That would have been
It was sealed. It was in a plastic bottle.
Very short
That's what
movie.
they give him: kerosene, matches,
And
and rope. Right? A little.
Do they even give him rope?
I think it's like kerosene, waterproof matches, and like something else.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, I remember the kerosene and the matches come back, but everything else he finds from his fallen.
I like that. I like that the entire SEAL team dies, and they give him that as like a fuck you.
Yeah.
And then he actually takes out
like everybody.
But he specifically uses
he takes
the
out
kerosene.
Cox. Yeah, he takes out Cox
Dr. Cox with the kerosene
and
matches.
Yeah.
All right, that brings me to my last question.
Mm-hmm.
Is John Mason James Bond? What do you think, Sketch? Is he and when I say that, not is like this a send up, or they're playing on the have the writers in their headcanon decided that John Mason is the canonical James Bond from Sean Connery's official run as 007 in the 6 Eon pictures that he appeared in?
And I say yes. I say yes, there is absolutely a version of the script in which that is revealed.
Okay.
And that someone somewhere had to been like, we can't do that.
Right.
We're not allowed to do that. But there are too many similarities, and he's written too exact that there had to have been a scene somewhere like it just lays it out blatantly for you.
I will one up that and say yes, and those movies were made by Eon Pictures, distributed by MGM. MGM at the time owned by Walt Disney Pictures. So I will say yes, and I came up with on my own this scenario, but in doing the research, I found a Reddit thread, a fairly well-documented Reddit thread that I had not stumbled upon previously. So I will credit, longtime listeners, I came to this on my own, but based on the work that was laid out, once I got into the research and found this, it was just so well laid out by Reddit user Apprehensive Test 26 that I have to credit.
Thank you, Apprehensive.
Thank you, Apprehensive Crest. Apprehensive Test 26. And I will say that there has been pretty excellent rebuttals of all of this as to why it doesn't work.
Okay.
But so I came to this on my own, and my conclusion was it all hinges on one thing: whether you believe that James Bond is the same man in every single James Bond movie, just played by different actors,
or a code name,
or if you believe that each actor is a different man using not only the identity of the number 007, but that James Bond is part of that cover story, and James Bond is not the real name. So across 007 movies, the history of James Bond has used many aliases, but always introduces himself rather cavalierly as James Bond. And so it comes down to your take on that, whether or not you believe James Bond is always the same person played by, I think, 7 different actors at this point. Or if you believe all 7 actors are different Bonds playing, are different men playing different characters using this same assumed identity that works for MI6.
Are you asking me specifically, or is this a rhetorical question for the LTLs?
I'm asking you specifically, but it's also rhetorical because I think I've answered it conclusively, but I think there will always be people to say one way or the other. I think there will always be a camp of people that feel a certain way. Sketch, what do you think?
Okay. I have seen very few James Bonds.
Okay.
I have only seen Pierce Brosnan James Bonds and Daniel Craig James Bonds.
Wow.
And not all of them from either of them.
Gotcha.
So I still haven't seen a Sean Connery James Bond.
Wow. That's crazy. I want to be with you when you watch your first Connery Bond.
Okay. We could do a Connery Bond for the pod. So I'm saying this with very little background information, but I would believe that it is a passed on title and code name and everything, only because beyond just actors changing now, the world has changed so much from the beginning of the Bond
Correct.
universe to now, and to still have a Bond.
Right.
To me, it's the only way to explain it away.
Sure.
Or it's not. I don't mean this to sound very multiversal, but like it's the same character, but
different universes.
Kind of different universe, but like, you know, this story is taking place in a time where James Bond has been doing this for a long time, but not necessarily every Bond that happened before actually happened to this Bond.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there is a caveat that none of what I'm about to explain works if you count Never Say Never Again in 1983.
Okay. So we won't count it.
Which is it's very well regarded, but it is not produced by Eon Pictures. It doesn't use the James Bond theme, and it exists at a time when Roger Moore, who is the third Bond, is unsure if he's going to continue. It looks like he's done his last Bond. The franchise is in dire straits. They get Connery to do one more Bond, Never Say Never Again, which is basically a more accurate telling of the novel Thunderball.
Okay.
So it's kind of a remake of Thunderball. And then Roger Moore does another movie after it. And so immediately Eon Pictures, MGM says, like, that is not canonical. It's not part of the pantheon of James Bond movies.
Yeah.
The Roger Moore sequel is the direct sequel to the 1981 movie. This Never Say Never Again didn't count.
Didn't happen. Okay.
So if you agree with that, which I do, I like the movie, but it's like a standalone.
It's an OVA.
It's an OVA. Didn't happen.
Okay.
Or if it did happen, it doesn't take place in 1983.
Yeah.
It takes place in an earlier time, or it never happened at all. And I think that's accurate because it doesn't include a lot of the tropes of James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
That's like your alternate universe thing. I'm just going to like read from Apprehensive Test 26's argument, and then I will leave it where it is debunked. And then I think I have the
debunk to the debunk,
the silver bullet as to why he is James Bond and why it does work.
Some might say that you actually found the film and you know who the real killer is.
You might say. So this is a common. So I guess many people have had this thought that it is true. In The Rock, it is revealed that John Mason doesn't exist, at least as far as government records are concerned. So he does not exist in any database in the world. And even in the 60s, you have to believe that facial recognition was starting to take hold. They would have had images of him, but this person does not exist. The only evidence that he exists is his daughter. Okay. It's plausible, even likely, that John Mason isn't his real name or is his real name and has been scrubbed. In Connery's tenure as 007, he has used aliases more than once to protect himself and fellow agents, so it's certainly in the realm of possibility that he changed his name upon being captured prior to the events of The Rock. He escaped Alcatraz after Dr. No. In the very first Eon Productions Bond film, and the first to feature Connery, Dr. No, while not stated in that film, it is safe to assume that the movie takes place in the same year it was released, 1962. The Rock states that Mason was arrested and sent to Alcatraz in 1962, escaping in 1963, the same year the second and, to many, one of the best Bond movies, From Russia with Love, was released and takes place. The final shot of Dr. No sees Connery's Bond refuse help from the CIA, meaning he could have been, and most likely was, picked up from another agency that assumed he was a henchman escaping Dr. No's island. In From Russia with Love, Sylvia Trench berates James Bond for ignoring her for 6 months. 6 months is more than enough time to be incarcerated and then plot and execute an escape plan from Alcatraz, at least for a man like James Bond.
Of course.
So that all tracks.
All tracks.
Right? Totally plausible.
Yeah.
He refuses the CIA's help. He floats off with Sylvia Trench in a boat to get it on.
Yeah.
Because he's oh so super sexy and irresistible.
So you're saying that's his daughter's mother?
Nope.
No.
Because in the next movie,
Bond has sex with lots of women.
He does, yes. He is a walking venereal disease, as documented on SNL. It's one of my favorite scripts of all. He has to call all of the women he's ever had sex with because he has 243 different forms of venereal disease.
Sure.
Yeah. And so it's just calling every single Bond villainess that he's ever had liaisons with. It's hilarious. I think Chris Parnell played Bond in that one.
Okay.
I think
so that's going to be my follow-up question.
Yeah, I think it was Chris Parnell. Okay, so he refuses. He's captured by the CIA. He gives this alias of John Mason, or John Mason was his actual name, and it's just been scrubbed from databases.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when he does come back 6 months later, he's been ignoring Sylvia Trench.
Right.
And so like, where have you been? Blah, 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 blah. He gives some like flippant answer, but he was locked up on the Rock.
Sure.
Took him 6 months to escape, and now he's back in British intelligence. He stole the microfilm after his last official Bond movie. So the reason Mason is imprisoned during the events of The Rock is that he stole the microfilm containing FBI secrets. The Rock mentions in passing that the reason he was put in Alcatraz was because of the stolen film. However, this doesn't add up, as the microfilm contains truth about JFK's assassination, an event that didn't occur until the year Mason escaped.
Oh, that's true.
The smoking gun in this fact is that the film seems to imply that the microfilm was stolen after the death of J. Edgar Hoover in 1972. Connery's last official Bond film came out in 1971. It is plausible that Diamonds Are Forever, which had many great scenes and was Connery's last official 007 film, was his Bond's last successful mission before being arrested as John Mason the following year. The timelines match up too perfectly not to take this into account.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of implies that he stole the film and was put in Alcatraz.
It does.
But that's never stated.
Yeah.
So the microfilm would have to have come out, which Womack says, like, this all came out after J. Edgar Hoover died.
Mm-hmm.
J. Edgar Hoover dies in 1972, and that's when Mason is captured for the final time. And it was during the intervening years, like sometime, and he was captured after a Led Zeppelin concert in 1972. And that's where he met Sky's mother, and they had a one-night stand.
Gotcha.
So it's later that he steals them, and it's plausible to, like, hey, Hoover's dead. We know this is we need to activate someone that we have on hand. He's out. British secret intelligence like finds him again. Like, find this, get it for us, and your slate's clean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Plausible.
Yeah.
James Bond could have escaped from Alcatraz. If there was anybody who could escape a prison such as Alcatraz, it would be James Bond. He has proven time and time again that he is the master escape artist, sliding his way out of all kinds of death traps and prisons. Even in Dr. No, he manages to free himself from a sinister lair that seems more inescapable than Alcatraz. While in reality, the prison wasn't fully inescapable, the devastating waters are what proved the odds of a successful escape being unlikely. To a man like James Bond, who has experienced the underwater combat of Thunderball, these waters would have been nothing. He has survived much worse due to luck and skill. MI6 disavows agents. Something that seems to work against the theory is the fact that MI6 would have never let one of their best agents be incarcerated in an American prison for over 20 years. One of the most popular spy movie tropes, however, says that they would do just that. A cliche in several spy movies is that the agency denies all knowledge of a mission or agent in the event they are captured.
Sure.
This is shown even in 007 movies. In the cold opening of Skyfall, M orders Moneypenny to shoot at Bond if it means killing the man they are after. If the good of the people, if the greater good of the most people is at stake, M would have had no problem leaving Bond to rot in prison. And so the final thing, British intelligence. Perhaps the most obvious thing supporting the theory outside of the fact that the same actor plays the two characters is that they were both British intelligence agents. James Bond works for MI6, and he is trained by top agents to become one of the best in the organization's history. In The Rock, John Mason claims that he was trained by the best in British intelligence, i.e. MI6. John's backstory is mostly kept secret, and the term British intelligence could mean anything, which of course leaves the door wide open to this theory. Mason may or may not have been an MI6 agent, but fans of this theory choose to believe that he is. Finally, John's daughter. If the theory is to be believed, it's hard to accept the fact that the great James Bond would have gotten captured and not attempted to escape. This is justified in one element, the fact that John Mason has a daughter. His daughter reveals that she was conceived after a one-night stand with her mother, which is, of course, a very 007 thing to do. His daughter Jade would have made James reflect on his life. He wanted to retire the spy life before his first wife was murdered. So it was James Bond has a wife in the movies who's murdered by Spectre.
Oh my.
So he had a wife, she died. So now like this is his second chance, and he was going to retire, but this pulls him back in. Being a father would be enough to want to give up that life. It would be his last mission. His mind could have been on his daughter, thus making him sloppy and leading to his capture. Proponents of the theory believe that his escape may have put his daughter at risk, which would be enough to stop him from trying. And finally, and this is where I say the writers also believe in what they're putting forward and intend for him to be James Bond. Hummel attempts to trick him into giving up his identity. Looking at the timeline of Hummel, the antagonist of The Rock and the Bond films, You Only Live Twice, some interesting things become apparent. During the events of this 007 film, Hummel would have been serving in Vietnam, which has already been established. In the opening of You Only Live Twice, 007 fakes his death, which then makes worldwide headlines. And I have here an image, British naval commander murdered, Commander James Bond, in the Hanoi Times. Hong Kong Times. Hummel could have seen this headline and felt sympathy for the fallen naval commander, which is keeping with his character. When the two men meet face to face in The Rock, Hummel requests Mason given his name and rank, even referring to him as a sailor.
Oh.
Mason gives a confused look and goes on to say he was in the army. This could mean Hummel recognizes Mason as Bond from the headlines and tried to slip him up. Mason's confused look implies he realizes Hummel knows his true identity and he's trying to confuse him.
Jeez.
I will go a step further. I believe that the writers at least believe John Mason is his real name. He was in the army, and the James Bond identity is a British naval commander. So Connery is not in The Rock. John Mason isn't lying, but if you believe he's 007, as I do, then it doesn't jive. And I agree with that Hummel would have recognized this guy that made international headlines as a British naval commander on a covert mission. It would have absolutely known that the man in front of him 30 years later.
So ultimately, the shady theory.
Yes.
And I forget his name's theory, but thank you. Altered Quest?
Apprehensive Test 26.
I was so close with Altered Test. A lot of COVID testing lately.
Yes.
The theory is that Sean Connery, John Mason is in actuality the same man.
Yes.
That
we know as James Bond from Dr. No to Diamonds Are Forever.
And there is ample evidence, specifically in the timeline of these James Bond movies that match up with the brief history of Mason's character that we're given in The Rock.
Yes. And they have purposely constructed that.
Well, it does seem too coincidental.
And I have the piece here that I think solidifies it.
The piece de shells.
Yes. A Bond movie always ends with James Bond will return.
Yes.
Okay? That is at the end of every canonical James Bond movie.
Yep.
It's not at the end of
the non-canonical.
You never say never again.
Yeah.
It's at the end of everything else. Okay. So, and these are the things that I think solidify it. I am of the persuasion that each actor is a different man assuming the identity of Bond.
Yeah.
And I think the writers of the current producers and writers of James Bond characters, like the official canonical James Bond run, agree with me. And when Apprehensive Test put out his theory, this was not there.
Okay.
They had not concluded yet. So the last Daniel Craig James Bond movie has come out. Spoilers for
that movie.
For that movie ahead. So fast forward through the end of.
All right, I'm going to try to.
Yeah, and I'm going to I'm going to apologize to you because I'm going to spoil it.
Oh God, I don't get a choice, guys.
You don't. I'm sorry. So in Daniel Craig's run as James Bond, we get his introduction into MI6 where he becomes 007. and I believe gets the identity of James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
And at the conclusion of his run, we see the death of his character.
Oh boy.
Like, there no surviving.
Yeah.
He is at the center of a nuclear missile strike.
Oh my gosh, was he in a fridge?
No.
Oh, then
it straight up hits him.
Yeah.
Like, he is dead.
Yeah.
DED dead.
But not because he's not in a fridge. Yeah.
He's not in a fridge.
Got it.
Okay. So, at the conclusion of that movie,
mm-hmm.
the very last thing you see is James Bond will return.
Yeah.
Now, either like his Bond is a throwaway at that point,
mm-hmm.
it's an alternate universe, blah, 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 or the current caretakers of James Bond also believe that each actor is a different Bond using an identity. When we pick up with Daniel Craig's Bond at the beginning of Casino Royale, his first Bond movie, M is played by Judi Dench,
mm-hmm.
who is a holdover from the Pierce Brosnan era. She is playing M.
Mm-hmm.
She appears to be the same M.
Yep.
And she appears to reference previous events of Bond missions.
Right.
But not that this Bond has gone on, because he's just getting his license to kill at the beginning of that movie.
Yeah.
She appears to have history with this person, but also recalls the events of previous missions.
Right.
In Skyfall, we get this Daniel Craig's Bond's backstory, in which they go to his family's estate in either northern England.
I did see that one.
You did see that one. Okay. We see his family's tombstones.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Craig's Bond is at least in his 40s by this point, late 30s, early 40s. Those tombstones are far too new. They're brand, so it's either bad prop dressing or MI6 has replaced their headstones to back up his identity as James Bond.
Gotcha.
And they've just redressed them.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Craig's final 007 movie is No Time to Die. He is at the center of a nuclear missile strike.
Mm-hmm.
Frigilous.
Mm-hmm.
He is reported dead.
Yeah.
Daniel Craig's like, I'm not coming back.
Yeah. But James Bond will return.
But James Bond will return. Never Say Never Again is a non-canonical James Bond movie. It's produced by Warner Brothers, not MGM. It doesn't count. Connery's last outing as Bond was Diamonds Are Forever, at the end of which he was reacquired by the CIA or FBI, incarcerated, escapes, finds the microfilm, put back in prison, captured, put back in prison, and there he remains until the start of The Rock. And I think the writers of the movie intend that, and the current caretakers of James Bond movies seem to also agree.
I'm on board. I'm on board. It's a very compelling argument.
Thank you.
Which means that while Mason is in prison, the events of Pierce Brosnan's Bonds are still taking place.
So it means while Connery's in prison, when he goes to prison the first time, there is a George Lazenby movie on His Majesty's Secret Service, goes on that adventure, and then there's a Sean Connery movie after that, and then that's 1968, and then Roger Moore takes over in 1971.
Okay.
When Connery would incarcerated again. He's 72. So that movie comes out in 71. So Connery's in America, but not yet reacquired. And then Roger Moore goes through till 1985 when Timothy Dalton takes over, does 2 movies, and then Pierce Brosnan takes over, runs through to 2002 or something like that. And then Daniel Craig takes over.
There you go.
The next one.
I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah, and I do feel like it's some of the choices are too intentional.
Yes.
That's the smoking gun.
So to the naysayers who say that the theory doesn't work, doesn't hold up, I say, given this new information. Oh, fuck you. No, I say that given this new information, it does. It's at least plausible.
So there you go.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking with me through that. I had this mind web. I was gonna.
It's very scary. I feel.
It's a little beautiful.
Concerned for my safety here.
My favorite thing is like the mental mind fuckery of Hummel asking what's your what's your name, sailor?
Yeah.
Like clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly, and him go.
And kudos for picking up
Army
because
I was in the Army.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't track unless he was actually in the Army.
Almost like I sold this guy a hot dog on Coney Island. I know it.
I know who you are.
Yeah.
You're a spy.
Yeah.
I saw. Yeah, you're famous.
Yeah. You like mustard and relish. Hold the ketchup.
And I think that brings us to
Shades and Sketch recommendations. But honestly, Rock's a good movie.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Do you recommend it?
Oh, yeah. Wholeheartedly. Yeah. Okay. Wholeheartedly. They gave it a 91.
Can I go first?
Yeah, take it away.
Okay. I am going to recommend The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is a new Nicolas Cage movie.
Oh.
In which he plays himself.
Oh, okay. That's not the one I'm thinking of. Okay.
It probably is the one you're thinking of. He is playing himself, and he is experiencing events from previous movies that he's made.
Interesting.
And
it's not what I was thinking.
Okay. And it's basically a who's who romp through all of the movies that he's ever done.
Wow.
But as himself.
Yeah.
And like experiencing things that are very familiar to you.
Interesting.
Leaving Las Vegas.
What's this on? Where do you watch this?
I bought it with early access through Amazon.
Gotcha.
I think it's on HBO. Right now.
Okay.
I think it just came to HBO.
That's cool. Wow.
But it is very surreal. It's funny. It's smart. Nicolas Cage is fantastic in it, and I mean, it just reiterates the tropey Nicolas Cage decisions, quirkiness, bonkers, over the top acting, but done only at as only Nicolas Cage can do.
Only Nicolas Cage.
Anybody else doing it would just be like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
But he sells it. He's made a career out of it, and he is incredibly and massively talented.
Yeah.
And I give it strong marks. I really enjoyed it. It references The Rock. It references it references Ghost Rider. It references the Wicker Man. Bees!
Oh, Wicker Man, yeah.
Bees! It references the bees meme. And it's fantastic. And I'm not giving anything away. It's really smart. It's really well done. And Nick Cage doesn't get it, but they were like, we can't make the movie without you.
Yeah.
And having experienced some tax issues, Nicolas Cage doesn't get to say no. So he does whatever is brought to him.
Okay. And
I say, wow, what a silver lining out of that situation. Because given the choice, he probably wouldn't have done this movie. Because it is very tongue in cheek.
And this is very recent. Because you said you saw it on early access.
I watched it on early access, like an in-movie theater purchase on Amazon.
Okay.
But it has since come to,
very cool,
I believe, HBO.
Give us the name of it one more time, please.
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yes.
And Nicolas Cage, make no mistake, Nicolas Cage is massively talented. He has won Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor over the course of his career. He is massively talented. Nicholas Francis Coppola, Nick Cage.
Nick Cage, ladies and gentlemen.
Nick Cage.
Was this our first Nick Cage? Have we done a Nick Cage?
I think this is our first Nick Cage. It's our second Sean Connery.
Second Sean Connery.
How many dragons do you know?
First Sean Connery on screen, though.
Yes.
So.
Well worth it.
Oh, well worth it. That was a good one. Good one to start with. All right. Very good.
Sketch, what's your rec?
My rec. Now, this is going to be a little tough for me to do because I watched this so long ago at this point, but I've been wanting to recommend it for a while. It is an anime called Vinland Saga. Have you heard of Vinland Saga?
I have not.
Okay. So it's on Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay, good. I was going to say, I don't have Hulu right now, so I haven't been watching a lot of anime.
It's on Amazon Prime. I think it's dubbed. I think it's
I hope.
I don't remember what I watched it on.
I don't watch subbed.
But it was a while ago. I'm getting into more dubbed.
The dubbing's
stuff.
gotten very good.
Dubbing's been getting good. I don't remember which this said, but okay. Vinland Saga is an anime that is like it does follow some classic anime tropes, but at its core, it is like a historical drama.
Ooh.
And it takes place during Viking times, and it follows the events of this young boy's life, who has been raised kind of sheltered in a very safe and well-run village. His father's the chief, and through a circumstance of events, you find out that his father was this great warrior, and there's this lineage behind him that he kind of gave up to have this quiet life with his family, and he gets dragged back into battle. And because it's so integral to the plot, I will just say dies protecting his son. And so now his son has like this giant weight on his shoulders of like who his father was and who he has to live up to. And it chronicles the story of this boy growing into a man. There's a lot of time jumps as he kind of joins this group of Vikings, first for revenge and for just surviving in the world. And it's quite serious, which is very different from my usual anime takes. Filled with lots of drama. It's quite emotional. The only point where like anime does show up to me is in fight sequences. Like the fight sequences are amazing. They're awesome. It's grounded in reality, so there is no magic or things like that. It's sword and shield. It's gruesome. It's, Viking bloodshed.
Right.
And then through this character's eyes and through his experiences, you learn about the Viking culture and the goings on and how things, in classic storytelling are not what they seem, and that there are more dangers than are expected, and they might not be coming from where you expect them to be. And so the first season is out. I understand that the manga is incredibly long and that this just touched on like the setup of the whole story.
Yeah.
But you could honestly watch season 1 and it's like a self-contained story that is it's just really well done. And I really haven't watched anything that's like a historical drama before, especially the one that doesn't take place in Japan. It's showing another culture's story of growing up. So Vinland Saga on Amazon Prime.
I'm in.
I watched it all within a couple days, but I watched it back in the winter. But it was highly recommended to me. Actually, it was highly recommended for a long time. And every time I tried to play it, Amazon Prime would be like, "There's a problem with this title. Try again later."
Oh, interesting.
And like that took forever. And then all of a sudden it started playing, and I watched the whole thing like within a week because I was just like so into the story and seeing how this goes. So
that happened to me with getting a PS5 on Amazon recently. There's a problem with your shopping cart.
Yeah. Did it go through?
No.
Yeah. Okay. That's
I got it into my cart.
That was the last message I got from you, and then I was afraid to ask for follow-ups.
Didn't get it. Didn't get it. When I clicked on like, do you want to go to your cart and buy this? It was like, oh, something went wrong with your cart, and then it was gone.
Yeah.
Like
Amazon, what are you doing? But anyway, I am recommending
Vinland Saga. Good rec sketch.
Yeah. It's cool one. And different.
It's
quite different from
longtime listeners. Good to be back.
It is good to be back.
Thanks for sticking with us. Yeah.
You gonna take anything from The Rock?
The Rock.
Satan's
see.
butthole. No, wait, he's not the one that says Satan's butthole. That's Nick Cage.
Oh, I do want to leave you with this little nugget. It was during the history. I skipped it because I have so many things. Sean Connery demanded a cabin be built on the island so he didn't have to take a ferry over every day.
Yeah.
And he got it.
Is it still there?
It's still there.
That's awesome.
Because it's a bird sanctuary.
All right, babe. Now we're going to Alcatraz. I need to see Sean Connery's cabin. That would be an amazing Airbnb.
Right?
Yeah.
Didn't want to spend however long it was on the ferry every day.
Fair. He's 65. He's putting his dues.
Just build me a cabin.
Give it to him.
Bed, shower,
and they did.
And they did. Yeah. He got it.
So you're taking Sean Connery's cabin.
I'm not taking Sean Connery's cabin. I'm gonna take this is questionable of all the things I could take from Alcatraz. I'm gonna take the atropine. I'm gonna take some of the atropine from some some of those
the seals that didn't use
that didn't use them. Because I mean, in the dangerous times, it's not for too much real world in our fake worlds here, but it's a dangerous time. So I'm going to take a couple of vials of that atropine.
And what does atropine do?
I don't know, but it seemed to work.
It did the trick. Whatever it does, it did the trick.
It's like adrenaline into your heart, right? I don't know what that would do for a chemical
cures
agent.
everything.
It cures everything.
All you need is heightened adrenaline.
Yeah.
And you're good
atropine into your heart. You're
atropine.
Good. Okay. So I'm taking it. It seems to cure everything.
Well, I had something I was going to take, but I was hesitant because I thought you were going to take it. But now that it's up for grabs, new vehicle for the garage, this beige Volvo.
That's interesting. No, I fucking hated that thing.
The beige Volvo?
Beige Volvo. Hated. That's what they were driving at the end of the movie, right?
At the end of the movie, it's a Beetle.
Is it?
I
thought it was a 50s Volvo.
No,
I thought that was the Volvo.
I made the joke to the missus, and she was like, "No, that's a VW Bug," and I was like, "Oh, the beige Volvo is what Nick Cage's character drives in real life. Although it doesn't jive with like this character he's made for himself, but it makes for a good joke.
The Volvos are supposedly very safe.
Yeah. So, and beige.
It's just very plain.
I feel bad for beige sometimes because it really just gets nailed as the plainest mundane color in existence.
It is. Oh, and also there was supposed to be a sequel.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm off my game.
There could easily be a sequel.
Where the U.S. government goes after Stanley Goodspeed.
Yeah.
For the microfilm.
Of course.
And he has to find John Mason, and they like go off into the sunset together.
I love it. Let's write it.
They just never got around to it. Sean Connery's dead.
Yeah, no, but like, CGI stuff. How do you feel about that when they bring people back as CGI?
CGI? I'm not a fan.
I'm also not a fan.
I'm not into it.
You should let an actor rest once they pass on. But you know what? You can still make the movie, and like Nick Cage finds out that Mason has died peacefully.
Right.
So blah, 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 blah.
So then he's got to go find Mason's daughter to help him escape.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't know.
I can't help you, man.
And that's the movie.
Do you want to know something about Led Zeppelin?
And then it's just Goodspeed, like it almost like
talking
Fight
to himself in
like
Sean Connery's voice.
He's like two people. All right, print it.
Oh guys, my god! Trademark, copyright, Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Let us know. We'll write that.
Yeah. The Rock 2.
We've got a pitch for you for The Rock 2. We know how to make this happen.
The Rock 2. What would the subtitle be? The Rock 2. Change butthole.
Oh, and I have another. Oh, man, I'm out of practice, longtime listeners.
All right,
but
bonus.
I believe my John Mason fix being Sean Connery. I believe that my shady theory for Mason as Bond also fixes current Star Wars issue with legacy characters.
Of course. We all went there. We all connected the dots.
Solo.
Okay.
Like the way to continue to use these characters, i.e. Solo, is not a Solo prequel.
Yeah.
The Millennium Falcon is the Rebellion for all cases. It's a famous ship.
Yes, it is. Han
Solo is just a name that they passed down. It's a code name that different people take on. And that's how you keep the character alive.
Yeah, do that.
Not by recasting the role. Because Kathleen Kennedy has said, like, that was a mistake. We're never going to do it again. People want more Han Solo. They want Harrison Ford as Han Solo. They don't want some other actor playing an earlier version of Han Solo. Like, it's just a title that's given to covert operatives within the Rebellion to carry it out. It's like, you're welcome. It's a way you get to keep using it, and it pays way more justice than like just recasting another actor in the role.
I could make a point here, but I will not.
Okay.
Because it's addressed in the Obi-Wan series, and I will not spoil that on the air.
Oh, is it?
We'll talk off mic.
Oh, okay, good.
We'll talk off mic.
Did I miss that when we were watching Obi-Wan?
No.
Oh, okay,
No. But we'll talk about that off mic.
Off mic. Not off mic, on mic.
Not off mic, on mic.
Longtime listeners, if you are a fan of the show, you can leave us a rating review on your podcast platform of choice. And our metrics show an interesting phenomenon. A lot of you listen to the show, but most of you aren't subscribed. Less than 50% of listeners are subscribed to the show. If you would kindly smash that subscribe button.
Smash it.
However you're listening to Geeking Out with Shades and Sketch, whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please hit the subscribe button.
Please.
It makes the difference in boosting the metrics of our show, which get our show into the ears of more people. So thank you for listening. But if you are a regular listener and you're not subscribed, please do so. It really helps the show get into the algorithm so that more people learn about it. It costs you nothing.
And thanks for letting us in your ears.
Yeah. And
on that note,
we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. If you'd like to take a more active role in supporting Geeking Out, visit us at patreon.com/shadesansketch.
Our website is shows.acast.com/geekingout.
You can email the show at gowithshadesandsketch@gmail.com or contact us through Facebook or Twitter.
Geeking Out is a production of Tree Cave Creative, LLC. All rights reserved.
2022.